Have you ever walked into a conversation where you knew exactly what you wanted to say, and then the moment it mattered most, your mind just went completely blank? Maybe it was a meeting, a disagreement, giving feedback, standing up for yourself, or even telling someone how you really felt. And of course, later that day, all the right words just magically showed up. But in that moment where it mattered, nothing. If you've ever froze during a difficult conversation, it's not because you're soft, bad at communicating, or not confident enough. It's because your brain was trying to protect you, because it read the situation as a threat, even if there was no physical danger around you. Today, I want to explain why that happens, what's actually going on in your brain, and one simple shift that will help you find your voice again. So let's get into it. Last time, we talked about why we replay conversations after they're over. Today, I want to talk about what happens before there's even a conversation to replay. Here's something I've noticed about myself. The conversations I cared about most were often the ones I struggled to speak. Not because I didn't know what I believed to be true or what should be said in the moment, but because the stakes felt incredibly high. It may not have been a high stakes moment, but in my head it was. What I found is the more something truly matters, the harder it is to find the words. There's a time I froze in a fairly large leadership meeting. Right when I knew exactly what I wanted to say in response to what was said, my heart started racing, my body felt hot, and I just completely lost my train of thought. Looking back, it's because I was worried about, was I going to say the right thing? What if people reacted in a way that I wouldn't know how to respond to? But of course, that was just all in my head. Let's take a look at what's going on. Most people think freezing is a communication problem, when in fact it's a protection problem. Your brain has one primary job: keep you safe. And it doesn't only see physical threats. It reacts to social threats as well, such as being rejected, looking foolish, disappointing someone, creating conflict, or losing approval. The freeze response is a protective shutdown that can happen when you feel overwhelmed, pressured, afraid to say the wrong thing, or unsure how to respond. Basically, your brain stops you from saying something that might make the situation worse. So, silence isn't always a lack of confidence. Sometimes it's your brain choosing safety over uncertainty. Imagine you're driving a car. You're pressing on the gas because you want to move the conversation forward, and then all of a sudden your brain just yanks the emergency brake. Now, frustrating, right? Especially when you want to move the conversation forward. So going back to that leadership meeting, it wasn't that I was unprepared for how others may react or that my words didn't carry any weight. It was that I was genuinely afraid in that moment. And so that sensory overload made it harder to think clearly. I had all the right points to make, but the emotional risk made my brain hesitate. Here's a sentence I hope you remember. You didn't freeze because you had nothing to say. You froze because your brain decided saying nothing felt safer than saying the wrong thing. That's a completely different problem. And it's a problem you can work with, because if your brain learned this response, it can learn a different one. The next time you notice yourself freezing, don't ask, why can't I speak? Ask, what is my brain trying to protect me from? That question shifts your focus. Instead of fighting yourself, you become curious about yourself. Maybe you're afraid of rejection. Maybe it's conflict. Maybe it's disappointing someone. Once you identify the fear, the conversation becomes a whole lot easier to navigate. One thing that has helped me is this. The goal isn't to never feel nervous. The goal is to recognize what's happening before your brain starts making decisions for you. Self-awareness gives you choices, and what you do with those choices create confidence, not the other way around. This week, notice the first conversation where you feel yourself starting to shut down. before you say anything, just take a moment and ask yourself, what am I trying to protect right now? You don't have to force yourself to be fearless, just become aware. Because understanding your brain is often the first step toward changing it. And when you stop fighting yourself, you finally give yourself the chance to be heard. If this helped, please like and subscribe. And if you've ever stayed quiet because you were worried about what others might think, I'm going to be talking about that in a future video. So look out for that. Again, thank you so much for sticking around to the end. It means a lot. Until next time, take care.